All right, I'm gonna try to give some of y'all a break today from the trash talking. After the last few days worth of videos, some of you have been trolled and triggered into oblivion. So try to give that a break today. Although I can't promise I won't crack a joke or two. So try to control your emotions if you can, and remember, your feelings are important to Uncle Lou. Yeah. Anyway, Heisman Trophy. I know I keep saying this, but I am getting close to starting the prediction, team by team prediction videos, and I'm just trying to sort of finish up this list and series of videos that I do every offseason leading up to the predictions. And it's time today to talk about the Heisman Trophy. And I made some pretty interesting notes today when I sat down to try to figure out this Heisman Trophy situation for 2023. Of course, Caleb Williams won it last year. I've got copious notes here, so we're gonna go through. Some of this here. I'm going to give you sort of, I'm going to tell you who the favorites are, the betting favorites, like according to the odds or whatever. I'll run through the list of the top 10 or whatever favorites according to Vegas. And then I'm going to try to narrow my list down to 4 or 5 people. I think last year there was 4 Heisman finalists that got invited to New York. Some years there's 3, some years there's 4, some years there's 5. So I'm going to try to narrow my list of Heisman candidates down to 4 or 5, and at the end of the video, I'll tell you who I think is going to win it. Let's start with, we'll start with the favorites for this year. Okay, so obviously at number 1, Caleb Williams, quarterback, Southern Cal. When you win the Heisman Trophy and you come back to play another year, you're going to be at the top of the Heisman odds, and that's the case with Southern Cal quarterback Caleb Williams. Lincoln Riley has a history of Heisman winning QBs and very, very good QBs. I mean, going back to, of course, Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. Even Jalen Hurts was really, really good at Oklahoma. And, of course, Caleb Williams sort of the latest in that line, albeit now at Southern Cal. Those other guys, of course, at Oklahoma. But Caleb Williams, the favorite, and it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, the guy was unbelievable last year. He's coming back. Lincoln Riley is his coach. We know they're going to throw the ball. They've got NFL wide receivers. They put up a lot of points. It makes perfect sense to me that Caleb Williams is the betting favorite. Number 2 is a little surprising to me. It's Jordan Travis, quarterback from Florida State. Now, I think Jordan Travis is a really good quarterback, and I think Florida State's going to have a really good year. How good? I'm not so sure. We'll see. That's got to play out. They play, of course, LSU in the beginning of the year. They play Clemson in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year. We'll see how that plays out. But I think Jordan Travis is going to be pretty good. My issue, we'll get to my issues with some of these later. But Jordan Travis is the second favorite, at least according to the odds, to win the Heisman this season. Number 3 is Drake May. This one's not very surprising to me either. I think North Carolina's record is the only reason Drake May wasn't a Heisman finalist that year. That and the fact that it was his first year playing. The Heisman, there's no rule that says this, but if you think about the Heisman, people that didn't get it, that win, or even people that get invited as a finalist to the Heisman Trophy, more times than not, it's at least their second year of being really good. And last year, of course, being Drake May's first year playing in North Carolina's overall record kind of holding them down. But Drake May, North Carolina quarterback, comes in at number 3. Again, doesn't surprise me. Should put up monster numbers again in 2023. At number 4, Bo Nix, quarterback, Oregon. Another Pac-12 quarterback coming back for an extra year. Of course, spent 3 years at Auburn, transferred, played at Oregon last year. Was on track to get a Heisman invitation last year. Got hurt late in the season. Oregon lost a couple of key games, and that was kind of it for Bo Nix. But he's back again. Should have another really good year out in the Pac-12. Number 5, Sam Hartman, quarterback for Notre Dame. Boy, it's been a long time since you've seen a Notre Dame quarterback this high on any Heisman list. We'll see how Notre Dame does as a team. We'll see how Sam Hartman does individually. Put up huge numbers at Wake Forest. And whatever you think about Notre Dame or Sam Hartman, this is going to be Notre Dame's best quarterback in a long, long time. Sam Hartman, 5th in the Heisman Trophy odds. Again, these aren't my opinions. These are the odds. I'm going to get to my opinions on the Heisman in a minute. Number 6, Michael Penix Jr., another Pac-12 quarterback. This one from Washington. Number 7, Quinn Ewers, quarterback from Texas. This one's interesting. Again, a guy in his second year. Played well at times last year. Hurt early in the year in the Alabama game. came back later in the year, up and down season for Texas. Obviously, Texas is going to have a better record if Quinn Ewers is going to win the Heisman. We're going to talk more about that in a minute, too. How good of a team do you have to be on to actually win the Heisman? We're going to talk about that. Look at some numbers from some previous years. Who's next on this? Number 8, Jaden Daniels, quarterback LSU. He's going to have to get a lot better over what he was last year if he wants to win the Heisman. He was a good quarterback. LSU was a really good team, but the Heisman is a numbers award. And there's a couple of guys on this list whose numbers don't support where they're at in the odds, and he's one of them. Jordan Travis is another one. As good of a year as he had last year, go look up Jordan Travis's numbers from last year. Those aren't Heisman numbers. Same with Jaden Daniels. And number 9, here's the first player on the list who's making their debut this year. This isn't a freshman, but this is somebody who's never started before. Georgia quarterback Carson Beck. This blows my mind. I'm going to be honest. This has to be a direct result of what Stetson Bennett did last year, because there hasn't been a Georgia quarterback even considered for the Heisman Trophy, really, in my lifetime. Matthew Stafford was really good, but Georgia was never good enough to get him into consideration. Aaron Murray was probably the closest quarterback Georgia has had to any type of Heisman consideration, and of course, they never even won the SEC with Aaron Murray. To see Carson Beck here, I know Georgia's won back-to-back national titles, and look, the reality is the Heisman has become mostly a quarterback award. Again, that's something we're going to talk about here in a second. So I get that. The Heisman has become mostly a quarterback award. Mostly a quarterback award that's handed out to a team in the top 5, mostly. So, in that respect, I guess it makes sense. But this guy's never started a game in college. He's got the 9th best odds at a Heisman, Carson Beck. Number 10, another guy that fits into the exact same category, Kyle McCord at Ohio State, a new starter. They're taking over for C.J. Stroud. So that's the top 10 in Heisman odds according to Vegas. So people who are actually willing to put their money down, people who are actually willing to risk their own money on who they think is going to win the Heisman, this is the order they have it in. Caleb Williams 1, Jordan Travis 2, Drake May 3, Bo Nix 4, Sam Hartman 5, Michael Penix Jr. 6, Quinn Ewers 7, Jaden Daniels 8, Carson Beck 9, Kyle McCord 10. All right. I think the first thing we need to do is cross some of these names off the list, at least off of my list. Some of this is just going off of gut instinct. Some of this is going off of actually how I think these players or these teams that these players are on are going to perform, okay? As far as winning, we'll get to winning in a minute. So as far as just finalists for the Heisman, I'm going to have to cross Jordan Travis off the list. If you look at Jordan Travis' numbers from last year, I think he threw for about 2,000 yards. Jordan Travis had a good year, and Florida State had a good year, 9-3, won their bowl game, double-digit wins, the whole thing. They're one of the most hyped-up teams in the country heading into next season. Hell, I've got Florida State at 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got Florida State at 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at 7. I mean, I think Florida State's going to be really good this year. And I think Jordan Travis will have better numbers this year than he had last year. But he would basically have to double his production from last year to get anywhere close to the numbers that previous Heisman winning QBs lately have been hitting. I just don't think he's going to do that. So again, this isn't a knock on Jordan Travis. We're trying to narrow this list down to 5 people. So I'm Jordan Travis, not going to make my final list. Drake May, I don't think North Carolina is going to be a good enough team for Drake May to get a Heisman invite in December. I went back and looked at every Heisman winner all the way back to 2009, okay? The worst, the player to win the Heisman on the worst team, going all the way back to 2009, you got 2 that are tied. Lamar Jackson at Louisville. In what year was that? 2016. Lamar Jackson won the Heisman. Louisville was 9-3 that year. Can North Carolina go 9-3? Another thing to keep in mind, they lost all their wide receivers from last year. Their defense didn't exist last year. They kept the defensive coordinator. I don't know that North Carolina can have a good enough record for Drake May to get there. I'm crossing him off the list. The other team, Robert Griffin III, remember him? God, that was back in 2011. Baylor was also 9-3. Every other player that's won the Heisman in the last 14 years, 13 years, going all the way back to 2009, has been on a team that was at least 10-2 in the regular season. At least. And the majority of these Heisman winners were on playoff teams or teams that played for their conference title. Caleb Williams last year played for the Pac-12. Bryce Young, Devontae Smith, Joe Burrow, all won national titles. Kyler Murray made the playoffs. Baker Mayfield made the playoffs. Lamar Jackson, we just talked about, 9-3. Derrick Henry at Alabama, national championship. Marcus Mariota at Oregon made the playoffs. Jameis Winston in 2013 won the national title. Johnny Manziel back in 2012. He's another one I wrote down there. What was their record that year? I wrote that 10-2. 10-2 at Johnny Manziel 2012. Robert Griffin III in 2011 at Baylor. We talked about Baylor at 9-3. Cam Newton 2010 national championship. Mark Ingram 2009 national championship. So I get that the Heisman is technically supposed to be awarded to the best player in college football. I think we all gave up on that idea a long time ago. We all pretty much know it basically goes to the quarterback, the best quarterback on one of the top 5 teams, with a few exceptions. And I'm going to get to some of those exceptions after we finish scratching some names off our list here. But that's why I scratched Drake May off the list. Nothing against Drake May. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Okay, it's just I don't think North Carolina's going to have the record they need to get him there. Let's see. So we're going to leave Caleb Williams on for now. We're going to leave Bo Nix on the list for now. We're going to leave Sam Hartman on the list for now. These are teams I think can win at least 9 games. Caleb Williams and Southern Cal can win at least 9. Oregon can win 9. Notre Dame can win at least 9. Michael Penix Jr. at Washington, they can win at least 9. Quinn Ewers at Texas. I'm leaving him on the list. I am high on Texas this year. People are laughing at me. I get it. Texas has been shit in the bed. Seems like every single year since the internet was invented. I'm going to leave Quinn Ewers on this list, even though he's got to have better numbers than last year. He's got to stay healthy, which he didn't do last year. And Texas has to be a much better team with a much better record. I know that's a lot of ifs, but I'm leaving him on here. Jaden Daniels at LSU, they can win 9 games. Carson Beck at Georgia, they can win 9. Kyle McCord at Ohio State, they can win 9. I got to scratch some more names off of here, though. No, I don't. Not right now. We'll scratch more names off in a few minutes. We'll scratch some more names off. In a few minutes. All right, so we went over those are the 10 favorites. I want to talk about some players that I think have a shot to win the Heisman that would be considered long shots, at least according to the betting odds. Joe Milton at Tennessee. God, I can't believe I'm saying that. But Joe Milton has got a chance to be invited to New York for the Heisman ceremony in December. There's a lot of angst about the fact that Hendon Hooker was not invited to New York for the Heisman last year. I think that may end up working in Joe Milton's favor this year. If Joe Milton puts up numbers similar to what Hendon Hooker did last year, and Tennessee can avoid disastrous losses and they can, another 10-win season, it would not shock me to see Joe Milton end up with a Heisman invite come December. His odds are at plus 2,500. To give you an idea of what a long shot that is, the favorite Caleb Williams is at plus 500. So Joe Milton plus 2,500. He's not in the top 10, obviously. I went through the top 10. He's way down the list. And now I want to talk about, let's do one more. Blake Corum plus 2,800. If there's a running back that's going to win the Heisman, it's probably going to be Blake Corum from Michigan. Donovan Edwards is good too, and that may end up hurting Blake Corum. Most teams now have 2 running back ones. It's not like it used to be where you have a starting running back and then another running back that plays every once in a while when the starter needs a breather. Most legitimate college football teams now have 2 starting running backs that they rotate in and out of the game every couple of plays. And Michigan's going to be like that, I think, with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, both really, really good running backs. But I put Blake Corum on here because he is the running back with the best odds to win the Heisman. He had a great year last year, so this would be his second great year in a row. But I think we all know it's extremely hard for a running back to win the Heisman. I'm going to talk more about that in a second, too. Now on to the 2 players that I think are the 2 best players in all of college football. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Brock Bowers. I think these are the 2 best players in college football, regardless of position, period. Pound for pound, I think both of these guys will be drafted in the top 10. I think Marvin Harrison will be the first wide receiver taken in the draft. I think Brock Bowers will be the first tight end taken in the draft. I think they're both going to be taken in the top 10. I think they're the 2 best players in all of college football. The odds for Marvin Harrison Jr. to win the Heisman, plus 2,500. The odds for Brock Bowers, plus 10,000. Plus 10,000. Just a huge long shot. Just for shits and giggles, I went back and looked. The last time a tight end won the Heisman Trophy, guess what year? Way back in 1949. That's right. 1949 was the last time a tight end won the Heisman Trophy. I don't think it's going to be Brock Bowers this year. But I did want to mention Marvin Harrison and Brock Bowers because I do think they're the two best players in college football. And again, that's what the Heisman is supposed to be about. But again, we all know that's not really the case. Marvin Harrison, I do think has an actual shot to win the Heisman, though, but not Brock Bowers. And I'm going to get into some more of that well, let's get into that now. How many wide receivers have won the Heisman Trophy in the last 25 years? Does anybody know? Two. Two wide receivers have won the Heisman in the last 25 years. I'm sure you can name the first one, Devontae Smith, 2020 Alabama. He won the Heisman. Well, what about Desmond Howard way back in 1991? I guess that was 30 years ago. 32 years ago. So in the last 32 years, we've only had two wide receivers win the Heisman Trophy. What kind of stats did they put up that were worthy of the Heisman Trophy? Now, keep in mind, college football is a totally different game in 2020 when Devontae Smith won the Heisman versus 1991 when Desmond Howard won it. But Devontae Smith had 1,900 total yards and 24 touchdowns, okay? So that's the type of numbers it takes in today's college football for a wide receiver to win the Heisman. Brock Bowers last year, 1,000 yards. Where did I do? I know I wrote this down somewhere. Where did I write this down at? Brock Bowers last year, but rushing and receiving, because he runs some too with the jet sweeps they do. He had 1,050 total yards and 10 touchdowns. He would have to double his production, in my opinion, to even have a shot at the Heisman Trophy. Brock Bowers would. I don't see that happening. Now, Brock Bowers is an amazing player, but the way Georgia runs their offense and spreads the ball around, I just don't see a way possible Brock Bowers gets anywhere close to 2,000 yards and 24 touchdowns, which is what Devontae Smith had when he won the Heisman. He was a wide receiver, not a tight end. Desmond Howard, 1,200 yards and 21 touchdowns, and that included, of course, 2 kick return touchdowns as well. That kind of sealed the deal for him. But again, this was way back in 1991. But even in 1991, when Desmond Howard won it, he won it with 1,200 yards. That's more than Brock Bowers had last year. And he won it with 21 touchdowns. That's over twice as many touchdowns as Brock Bowers had. So Brock Bowers would have to have a monster season, even by Brock Bowers standards, to even have a shot at winning the Heisman Trophy. So I'm scratching him off my list. But it's an interesting long shot bet. If you want to put $100 down just for fun, if Brock Bowers does end up winning the Heisman Trophy, that $100 will win you $10,000. $100 on Marvin Harrison Jr. will win you $2,500. That's a good bet too. Because he could win it. Again, from 2022 when Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy back to 2009. So the last 12 or 13 seasons, whatever that is. Here's the positions that have won the Heisman. Quarterback, wide receiver, quarterback, running back, quarterback, running back. 1 wide receiver and 2 running backs. The rest have been the 2 wide receiver, 1 wide receiver, 2 running backs. The rest have been quarterbacks. Quarterback probably winning it this year too. Top 5 not going to be easy. The running back before Derrick Henry won it in 2015. Derrick Henry won it as a running back in 2015. Who was the running back to win it before that? Ron Dane. Ron Dane in 1999. So Derrick Henry's the only running back this century to have won the Heisman. So for that reason, I'm crossing my boy Blake Corum off the list, and every other running back as well. Again, this isn't how I think it should be. This is how I think it's gonna be at the end of the year. So it's time to narrow this down. So I took all this information I looked into today. I took the top 10 betting favorites. I picked out some of just my favorite players that I think are going to have really good years. I scratched off a couple of names based off of me thinking maybe the team's not going to be good enough for them to win the Heisman, or maybe some players numbers wise, stats wise, just aren't going to be able to get there. And I did my best to narrow this thing down to 5. Now, this was not easy to do, but this is going to be my prediction for the 5 Heisman finalists at the end of this year. One more thing before I name my finalists, too. Nobody was talking about Stetson Bennett or Max Duggan winning the Heisman heading into last year. it's impossible to pick an out of the blue candidate for the Heisman. So I'm not even going to try to do that. You know, I could pick whoever Alabama ends up starting at QB, or whoever Ohio State ends up starting at QB, people we've never seen play before, or some random quarterback from an ACC team that no one pays attention to. That's what happened last year with Max Duggan, and to a lesser degree, Stetson Bennett. I'm not even going to try to pick that or predict that. I'm going to pick known commodities. I just think it's way more likely a known commodity wins the Heisman than somebody comes out of the blue that we've never heard of, like a Max Duggan or a Stetson Bennett. Even last year, they didn't win it. Caleb ended up winning it. I'm going to put in my top 5 Caleb Williams. He's going to be number 1. I went over the reasons why already. He won the Heisman last year, for one thing. He plays for Lincoln Riley. He's going to put up a ton of yards. Southern Cal loves to sling the ball around and score a bunch of points. Caleb Williams goes in my top 5. Jordan Travis does not go in my top 5. Drake May does not go in my top 5. Bo Nix is going in my top 5. I think Oregon is going to be a better overall team than they were last year. And if Bo Nix stays healthy, I think he's going to be a Heisman finalist. He runs around a lot, so he's going to have the throwing yards and the running yards that everyone's enamored with these days when it comes to quarterbacks. He makes a lot of highlight reel plays when he runs around, whether it's extending plays and then throwing it or actually taking off downfield. He just makes a lot of those like Sports Center top 10 type plays. I got Caleb Williams and Bo Nix, the first 2 of my 5 Heisman finalists. Sam Hartman, I'm going to cross him off the list. Southern Cal and Notre Dame play. I think Caleb Williams outshines Sam Hartman, and for that reason, I'm just scratching Sam Hartman off the list. Michael Penix Jr., I'm putting him in my top 5. That's right, I've got 3 Pac-12 quarterbacks in my top 5. The Pac-12 is the best conference in football when it comes to quarterbacks in 2023. I don't care how much you hate the Pac-12. I don't care how much you quit watching the Pac-12 4 years ago. They've got the best quarterbacks in football. We haven't even talked about DJ Ukulele at Oregon State, and Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. I got Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. all in my top 5. Who else are we going to put in there? I'm crossing Carson Beck off the list just because I've never seen him start a game. I think Georgia's going to be really good. They're definitely going to have a good enough record for him to be considered. I just can't. I can't go with a guy I've never seen start a game. So for the same reason, I'm taking Kyle McCord off the list. So Georgia and Ohio State off the list. Jaden Daniels at LSU, to me, he's like Jordan Travis. They both play on really good teams. They both have the potential to be really good quarterbacks. But you look at their numbers from last year, they're miles away from having Heisman numbers. Both of those guys, Jordan Travis and Jaden Daniels, would basically have to double their production from last year to even have a chance. So I'm taking Jaden Daniels off the list. Quinn Ewers at Texas is the only one left in the top 10 that I got to make a decision on. Let's hold off on that. Joe Milton from Tennessee. Who do we have on here now? So we got Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. 3 Pac-12 guys. I got room for 2 more. To me, those 2 spots come down to Joe Milton, Marvin Harrison Jr. Is that really it? I mean, Quinn Ewers. God, I'm scratching Quinn Ewers off the list. I'm scratching Quinn Ewers off. My final 5 for the Heisman in no particular order. Caleb Williams, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Joseph Milton. You know Joe Milton's a 6-year guy, so Tennessee's going 100-0 and winning the national title. The only reason Georgia won the national title last year is because Stetson Bennett was in his 6th year. I've heard it all offseason. That's it. It's the only reason. If you have a 6-year quarterback, automatic national title, I guess. So Tennessee will be your national champion. Joe Milton will make the Heisman ceremony. Wow, what a great year for the Hill Jacks it's going to be. Unbelievable. Now, if for some reason Tennessee doesn't win the national title with a 6th-year quarterback, what would that mean?